Unfair. Let's go back to a hot summer's day around the year 1900, when in households across the land this was happening.
You know, Lucy, if we can get all these tomatoes put up today, we can start on the corn tomorrow.
Ooh, that'll be good.
Heavens above, Jim, the last thing we need right now is more tomatoes. We got twice what we can put up now. I mean it, Jim. Take them back outside and don't bring any more.
Now, don't take off on me, Martha. It's not my fault we had so many this year. Fact is, I figured you'd be glad we got such a good crop.
Oh, of course I'm glad, but I haven't got time to put up any more.
All right, all right. What'll I do with these?
Oh, feed them to the pigs.
Huh? Feed them to the pigs. What a waste of good tomatoes.
Yes, waste was the word, and no way to beat it. But along about that time, things were happening that would change all that.
You know, John, I hear they're putting up fruits and vegetables better than we can now, over near Fairport.
Who is they?
The canneries. And what with the sugar and all the other seasoning and the cooking and whatnot, it costs less, too.
Well, if that's true, why do you slave over a hot stove when you can get them right down at the store? For that matter, why do I waste my time with these trees and bust my back over the plow? Golly. Next season, I'll put in smaller crops.
No, bigger crops.
Bigger? Now, how in the world do you figure that?
Well, it's our chance to save some money. Why, we can sell our fruit to the canneries and plant more and more things to sell them right through the seasons. And then if the crops come in good, we can put by enough money to send the boy to college.
So he can be a better farmer than me and grow more crops?
Sure, to sell to the canneries.
You know, Mary, that's quite an idea you've got there.
That it was, and it caught on. Farmers began to plant more and more acres, improved their yield, lifted their farm incomes to higher levels, adding purchasing power that gladdened the hearts of entire families. And a new agricultural era was in the making, all through the growing demand for canned foods. But in those days, progress was limited by the old-fashioned hole and cap can. Many things, for instance, had to be cut up and forced through the hole in the top of the can. Filling cans was therefore a slow process. After filling, a cap had to be soldered over the hole by hand, and that required a lot of work, to say nothing of an equally important element, time. Result? They just couldn't turn out canned foods fast enough to keep up with the growing demand.
Careful.
What else, Mrs. Moran?
Well, I need some peas, 3 cans of peas. There's your candy.
That's the last of the peas, Mrs. Moran. Can't seem to stock up enough for you folks.
Well, why don't you order more?
Ma'am, I could order till the cows come home. But if the cannery don't have them, they can't send them. And if they don't send them, I can't sell them. Comes to $3.18.
$3.18.
Mm-hmm.
My.
Food to keep our husky young fighting men fit.
food to give them the strength to battle for freedom. But in addition to food that must go to the warrior at the front, there must be food for the worker at home, the man who makes the guns and ships and planes and tanks that will bring us the final victory. Then there must be food for all the rest of us who are doing our part to win the war by keeping fit, able, and healthy so that we can work harder, longer, and better at whatever our daily tasks may be. Until this war began, we in America were blessed with an abundance of food. Our land was rich with all the treasures of vegetables, fruits, and grain, and meat that we could desire. None of us needed to give a second thought to the possibility that there might be a scarcity of any food. But today, out of our abundance, we must feed many mouths. Now, half the civilized world looks to America to save it from starvation and death with a never-ceasing flow of food. To plant that food, to cultivate it, harvest it, transport it across the nation and across the seas is a task that today taxes to the utmost our facilities of manpower and transportation. Yet this vital flow of food for freedom dare not, must not be stopped. In spite of sunken ships and trains that must carry steel, oil, coal, and lumber, instead of food, in spite of every obstacle, we must feed our fighting men, our allies, and ourselves if we are to win the war and right the peace. This, then, is a challenge to every loyal American citizen. What can we do to help win the war with food? The answer to that challenge comes from Washington, from the Office of Civilian Defense. Victory gardens. That's the answer. We can grow food for victory in our own backyards and even in vacant lots where perhaps only weeds flourished before. Because so long as this war lasts, great quantities of food must be grown. Anywhere and everywhere we can find good soil to nourish the seeds, good soil and sunshine to make them grow. Still, it takes more than earth and sun to produce the right kind of victory garden. It requires a knowledge of how to plan and tend it, and a willingness to work it with interest and enthusiasm. Our local Office of Civilian Defense can tell us much we need to know on how to plan a victory garden. From garden magazines and garden advertising, we can get the advice of professional experts on how to derive the most from backyard planting. And scores of seed and nursery houses can supply us with other vital gardening information. Then each spring, we can start our gardens with good seeds. Plant them in rich, well-tilled soil, away from shadowing houses or trees, out in the open, where they can be warmed by life-giving sunshine. And as our gardens grow, they must be regularly cared for, faithfully weeded from planting to harvest. Enriched, perhaps, with one of the magic plant foods science has given us, rigidly protected from insects and plant-killing disease, and watered, of course, because Mother Earth gets thirsty now and then. Yes, for the duration, at least, it's our job to grow food for our own tables and free the nation's farm produce for the men at the front and our allies across the seas. Millions of Americans have done, are doing, and will do just that. Guided by one of the many plans that have been made available through governmental and private agencies, they're finding out that it's not only easy to make a victory garden, it's a great way to have fun and get plenty of healthful exercise. They're discovering that the closer they get to the good earth and the more they drink in fresh air and sunshine, the more courage and strength they have to face today's wartime problems and meet them like true Americans. Here's a bookkeeper in Iowa. He's been planning a victory garden for a long, long time. It'll be designed after one he found in a gardening guide, and he can hardly wait for the time when he begins it. because he's sure that he's going to have the finest backyard crop you ever saw. Here's a Michigan fireman. He expects to grow enough vegetables to feed his whole family of 5 the entire summer. And here's a busy manufacturer who makes munitions and puts in his spare time admiring his garden. That is, he does when he isn't chasing the family dog away from his pet vegetables. And so it is in every corner of America today. Millions of men and women are finding real joy in victory gardening. They're working in the backyards of village and city, in the yards of townhouses, and in community groups as well. Even the small fry are doing their part in school-sponsored victory gardens. And because Dad can take care of the home victory garden after work, there's no need for holding back manpower from the fighting front. And there's no need to strain transportation resources to bring food from a victory garden to the table. Mother picks it herself, fresh every day. Fresh food, good food. Food packed with the rich minerals and vitamins we all need to keep healthy, strong, and fit. Fresh food, good food. Food from our own backyards. Food from the gardens of victory, grown by you and me, so that thousands of miles away, a fighting man, too, can have food. There are many, many ways we who have stayed home can fight this war. Many ways for us to give our time and energy and loyalty and devotion to the battle for freedom. But of them all, none is more appealing than this. And year in, year out, if need be, with our own hands, we can grow the gardens of victory.
Why can't the cannery send you enough?
Well, ma'am, it isn't only the cannery. I was over there the other day pestering them for more. My customers are asking for them, says I. Can't give them to you, says he. Why not, says I. Don't ask me, says he. Ask the can maker. So I took the buggy and drove over to the can maker, and I did ask him.
I know you folks. You can't be told. You've got to be shown. So let's take a look around. Now, here's where we cut the body blanks. This man here is forming the can body. Here he's soldering the side seams.
Pretty slow work.
Over here, they're soldering on the tops and the bottoms. Say, Frank, our friend here is hollering for more canned goods. How many cans do you think we'll turn out today?
We can figure on maybe 600.
There you are. I've got 3 men soldering here. They can turn out only 600 cans a day. We got calls for a lot more than that.
Why don't you hire more men?
You find them and I'll hire them. Solderers don't grow on trees. But by golly, fruit does. The crops are coming in right now. Canneries are crying for cans. And you think you got problems?
Now, mind you, ma'am, our local can maker's as good as any of them. But it's just that can making is a slow process. Here, Jimmy. Come over here. I want to show you something, son. Here's a lesson you learn in school someday. Crop and can geography, you might say. Now, here's us. Here's the can-making plant. Here's the cannery. And here's the farmland. Farmers are planting more land all the time, putting in more and more crops, because the cannery is here to take care of them. Now, just imagine this same thing taking place all over. Oh, there are lots of canneries and can makers in the growing areas. But when harvest time rolls around, the crops come in, it's the same story everywhere. They're all swamped with orders that they just can't fill.
Yes, it was apparent that the task of serving a whole nation was too big for the can production capacity available in those days. The need was clear for a pooling of resources in the interest of better experimentation, research, engineering skill, and greater can production. So, many can makers did combine their facilities and pool their knowledge to form the American Can Company. Thus, in 1901, was laid the foundation for advancements in can making destined to serve mankind in war as well as peace. But despite much early progress in can making, it continued to be a slow process. Part of the trouble was the can itself. It didn't lend itself to mass production. Then came a development that was to have far-reaching effect.
Say, you're right, Harry. This is different. Certainly is a new basic idea in can making. Let me see that. No hole in the top?
Nope. Canners get them with this end entirely open, so they can pack whole tomatoes or peaches or other fruits and vegetables in this can. Don't have to cut things up. Consumers will love that.
How's it sealed? Solder?
No, that's another advantage, Jim. No solder on the ends at all.
No solder? Well, how?
Well, we've got a machine that crimps the ends on with a rubber composition gasket to keep them tight.
And curl their outer edges. Into the curl of the ends is injected a rubber gasket material. Graphically illustrated, it looks like this. Later on, when the ends are seamed on the can body, this material will provide an airtight bond between the body and the end pieces. Now to make the can body. This body maker actually operates too fast for us to see how the can body is formed. So after the body blanks, which you saw being cut earlier, are fed into the body maker, we will follow its intricate steps in slow motion and with graphic illustrations. First, the body blanks move to a notching station. Here, small notches are cut from the corners to eliminate a double thickness of metal when the ends are seamed on. The body blank is then formed and hooked into the familiar shape of the can around the body maker. Next, they are bumped to form and tighten the side seam. The formed bodies then pass over fluxing wheels to a hot solder bath, where solder is applied to the outside of the side seam. The side seam is then wiped off and cooled by a blast of air. Then the bodies speed along to where they are flanged at each end, so the tops and bottoms will fit on. Here you will see why the body blanks were notched. The notches eliminate a double thickness of metal where the side seam overlaps the flanged part. Only 2 layers come together at this point, thus permitting a perfect seal when the end pieces are seamed on. Here in the can-making plant, only one of the end pieces is double seamed in place, and the other end left open so the cans may be easily filled at the canneries. This operation is extremely important. It calls for the utmost precision. One end is placed on the can body. It curls over the flange on the body in precisely the right amount. Remember that rubber gasket material in the curl of the end pieces? Well, this material provides a bond between the layers of metal to ensure a permanent, airtight seal as they are pressed together to give us the finished double seam. Later, when the cans have been filled in a cannery, the other end will be double seamed on in the same way with exactly the same precision. But returning to the can-making line, our cans, with only one end seamed on, leave the double seamer ready for final testing. Fresh air is a wonderful thing, but not in a can. By means of air pressure, this machine detects a can that might leak air and tosses it out as a suspect, to be checked separately against a can like the red one we know to be a leaker. And that's it. The seemingly simple can requires such precision in its making that any variation in excess of a few thousandths of an inch are sufficient to cause automatic rejection. This ability to achieve high-speed production with such precision has placed the can manufacturing industry in the front rank of the mass production leaders of the world. But how do all these billions of cans get to the right place at the right time? Food cans, for instance. Well, that takes a lot of planning, a lot of experience, and good teamwork between the can manufacturer, the canner, and the farmer. Actually, there's hardly a minute of the day or night that you won't see trucks loaded with containers or freight cars similarly loaded on their way to the canneries scattered across the land. Such journeys are initiated at the canneries, but there's more to it than just loading a truck or freight car. Because with all man's controls, there's still one thing about nature he can't change: the uncertainty of the weather.
So if the weather holds good, crops should be ready about the 30th. Give or take a day on either side.
Mm-hmm. So you want your cans around the...
Can you make it the 21st?
21st it is. How many?
We better have 2 carloads a day till the pack is complete.
You'll get them.
Oh, I know I can depend on you. But if there's any change in the weather, you'll be hearing from us. We've got to be ready when the crop is.
And that readiness depends upon the weather. But weather and its effect on a crop like peas, for example, is a mighty unpredictable thing. You can't depend on guesswork. That's why the American Can Company developed this machine, the tenderometer. It shows when a pea crop has reached the proper stage of maturity for best quality. Such information, together with the counsel of agronomists sent out by the can makers, helps canners and farmers select the right time for harvesting.
Well, what do you think?
I'd say you can start taking them in next Monday.
Any special time of the day, or do you leave that up to me? Monday's okay with me.
But sometimes unexpected...
Thank you.